All right, so I'm Yanis. I am in a variety of places during the day at the University of Westminster, during the evening at the OU, and also at the University of London and everywhere else at the same time together. Actually, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm going to put a link from where you can find information about me, so we can continue to talk. Thank you very much for having me on today. I try to talk about these things to people, but then they tend to fall asleep. Isn't this the sort of thing you want to talk to people about AI, you want to talk to people about creativity and what you do, and everybody instantly kind of starts playing with their phones? Is this, hopefully this is not what's happening right now. Give me an emoji or some sort of reaction if you're actually listening to this and not playing with your phones. Hopefully everybody's still connected. I cannot even get my own kids interested in this stuff. You try to tell them about these things and they kind of instantly switch off. I mean, it is the nature of things. Now, perhaps one of the reasons why these discussions are a little bit difficult to follow is that we tend to talk about them in the abstract. And we have a couple of presentations today already talking about informing colleagues and advising others and trying to bring everybody up to speed with the various tools that are available and the contributions that AI can make. But still, a lot of these presentations remain at the level of abstraction that leaves people wondering, how can I actually use this stuff right now? So what can I do the moment this presentation is finished in about 20 minutes? How can I switch off and go and use something immediately in order to improve my practice and do something? So I've been thinking about this with this anxiety in mind. How can we actually take the discussion about the various AI tools and functionalities and use them in our real life right now? So I'm going to take you through what I've done with all of this stuff. Now, where have I used AI? First of all, I started getting interested in this not a very long time ago, just when ChatGPT came out. Because my initial reaction was the same as everybody else's. I thought, oops, hang on, this thing can write. My students are going to use it to produce their essays. I better kind of get in there and check what is actually going on. So I started fiddling with this in about, what was it, the autumn of 22. And then, because I like to play with video and audio and images, I started using the various tools that you could do this type of animation and manipulation using AI. And I got really into it. And, you know, I'm not an artist by far. I'm not a particularly technical person. I cannot code. I cannot do anything. I'm a lawyer by training, and I've been teaching kind of various boring things like company law and business law and all the rest of it. So this is like very new area for me. But I did realize, even at that early point in the autumn of 22, I realized that this is going to take over. And I am not as optimistic as some of the other presenters. I think this is actually going to leave us without a job. By the way, if you have survived the latest round of redundancies, congratulations. And hopefully we're all in employment up until next year, so we can do this again. So our sector is in trouble, academia is in trouble, a lot of business areas are in trouble, and this thing here is actually going to be a very serious challenge in everybody maintaining employment and maintaining relevance as we're going forward. So, step back to what I was saying originally. I tried to figure out how I can use these things and how I can tell other people how to use these things right now, not in the abstract, but with specifics. So I'm going to tell you what I've done. Hopefully you guys can still see on the screen. I've changed the slide now to show you a few examples of where I've used this. So if everybody can still see that stuff, just drop me a funky sign or something, right? So one of the things that I've done is I am trying to take redundant teaching content and recycle it for a wider audience. This was an idea that came up during the pandemic. I thought, I've been sitting on all these lectures, I've been sitting on all this material for a long time. How about I put everything on YouTube and give people an opportunity to access this and do something useful with it? So what I've been doing is thinking, how can I use the various AI tools to upscale and recycle old teaching content? So the primary idea was to take old lecture notes and turn them into podcasts. It is possible now, using the tools available, to take text and get an AI voice to narrate it nicely so you can use it as the audio background for a new podcast or a new video or a presentation, or you can just use the audio by itself. Right? And you could tell me that you could do this by yourself anyway. You can narrate your old lecture notes. Yeah, I know, you could, but it's going to take a while. And you know what? The cats are going to be meowing. The neighbor is going to be drilling on the wall. Someone's going to be cooking. The kids are going to be running around. The dogs are going to be barking. The delivery people are going to be ringing the bell every 5 seconds. Now, I've done a lot of voiceovers and a lot of podcasts where I actually narrate stuff, but technically it is really, really tricky. If you could get an AI voice that sounds human and sounds proper and can take your transcript of your lecture or parts of your lecture notes that you've turned into a transcript and transform them into a text that can be narrated, then you have created for yourselves an amazing teaching resource that you can use to give to the students. You can use to create, if you want, pre-recorded lectures, or you can create content that you can give to the rest of the world and do something useful. So I've been using this text-to-speech functionality through Google Cloud to create a great deal of content, and it has worked fantastically for me. Strangely enough, people don't mind that it's an AI voice. Maybe it's because my voice isn't great, so the AI voice kind of sounds better than me, and certainly better English than mine. Yeah. Now, you can also do the opposite. You can take existing recordings, all your Panopto lecture captures or other recordings of your own lectures and presentations that you've done in the past, and transcribe them using AI. This functionality is actually excellent, and it has gotten so much better. Why would you want to do this? Primarily for accessibility reasons. So you give a transcript of your lectures or of audio content that you make available to the students. You give them the actual transcript of what you're saying so they can follow along, or they can use for screens that they need additional assistance and so on. For instance, I gave my students one of my podcasts as part of the assessment. The assessment was, listen to this podcast, then consider this question and produce a response. But in order to be fully compliant with our regulations, I needed to give them a transcript. If I had transcribed for myself my entire lecture, this would have taken a long while. So I used the AI tool to produce the transcription. Yeah, I will share with everybody in response to what people are putting in the chat. I can share with you the various tools that I'm using. Pretty much everything that I've done is through Google Cloud. So I've got like an enterprise subscription for Google Cloud. It sounds scary, but it only charges you on the basis of what you're using. So a lot of stuff are free as well. So it's not really a monthly subscription like you might get with other things. It actually works quite effectively and at a relatively negligible cost. After I say this, I usually receive a bill. So maybe I shouldn't have said that. Last time I said this, I just received an email that had the charge for that month. So I regret this. Right. What other things can you actually do using AI to improve your practice today? Like things that you could switch on and try 15 minutes after leaving this class. And you do not have to be particularly technologically savvy. As I told you, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a technical person, right? But I'm able to do all this relatively easily because the interface is very intuitive. And this is something that you use primarily to give to the students, not so much something that you would be asking your students to do in the context of a class. We talked about accessibility and being able to sort of respond to the accessibility needs of different types of audiences. One of those is language. So we deliver in English because our audience here is in English. But if you want to deliver to broader audiences, you might be interested in offering your content in other languages. I mean, this is probably a lot more relevant for some of the people in the audience than it is for the lawyers, because clearly the lawyers in English law need to do it in English. But if you're teaching art, if you're teaching philosophy, if you're teaching history, you might be able to, you might want to do this in other languages. AI tools can offer you automatic translation and captioning in different languages. So even though your original text might be in English, or your original podcast or your original video might be in English, you might be able to get through some of the tools auto captioning in the language of your choice. YouTube does this for you and for free. You can select language that can display the subtitles that is different from the language of the presenter. Soon we will have functionality that actually changes the voice as well and puts it in different languages. I had a lot of fun with this because I've been testing various tools that do auto dubbing. This is so funny, and you know, if you want to mess with your friends, I would really recommend that you do this. So I took a video of myself that had like a few minute presentation in English, and I did the auto dubbing into Arabic and into Hindi. And then I sent it to all my friends, and it completely freaked them out because it took my video, my voice, adjusted my mouth movements, and then had me speaking in Arabic and had me speaking in Hindi. I don't speak either of those languages. And it was a great fun experience, but it also demonstrates the opportunities for accessibility that we've got through the use of these tools. Imagine if you can suddenly reach audiences in any language, and people can watch your video, and you can deliver your educational content in any language in the world in a way that seems natural and is effective. So far we've talked about taking your transcripts and turning them into podcasts or videos, doing the opposite and creating transcripts out of your existing videos and podcasts, about using multi-language tools either for captioning or dubbing. What else can you do? We've already discussed in the context of the presentations we had today about video design and graphic elements and graphic design and image generation. So everybody's well familiar with those functionalities. Personally, I use Adobe Firefly because this comes with the Adobe subscription that we have. Firefly is quite an effective tool. And then through an integration that it's got with Adobe Express, you can put textual elements of it on it. One of the things that I don't understand is why the image generation tools cannot handle text. So if you say design a stop sign that says stop, it will design a nice stop sign, but then it will say gobbledygook. So I haven't quite understood yet why it cannot actually effectively generate text, or maybe this is because I'm using the free tools so far. Now, also I've used a great deal of audio assistants, because you can now have AI audio enhancement. So you can take a recording of something like this that doesn't sound great because it hasn't been produced in a studio. The computer is currently just capturing the sound of what I'm saying, but you can feed either the video together with the audio into a tool, or you can feed the audio separately, and it can offer AI enhancement. So you take any recording, even if it's got background sounds or it's got like some weird things going on, and you can turn them into studio-like products that sound fantastic. So I've got my own podcast series on Spotify. I produce my audio using those tools, and I don't need to pay anything. I record everything with the phone, and then it makes everything great. I've got interviews with my friends and so on. We record everything on the phone, and it works fantastically. Now, finally, what other tools do we have available and what we can use? There are millions of things around. Not all of them are going to be relevant for your work as an academic. You don't have to know how to use all of them. Some of them are quite repetitive, but if you're looking for something and you're looking to explore the opportunities that AI has to enhance your work, you will find a tool that will help you make something better. And I think what we're trying to do now is to discover all these tools and figure out ways to use them. But perhaps an interesting way to think about it is for everything that you do, ask yourselves, could I be using ChatGPT for this? I know. And you will be amazed at the results. For instance, right? And I'll drop you the link to, don't watch it now, but watch it later. I'll drop you a link to a video that I made. Oh, I don't have it right with me, so I'll share it with you after we're done talking, right? I was writing feedback, and I thought for assignments, right? So I thought I will produce some templates for the feedback. So I've got something that is already there made that reflects the learning outcomes that I've got for the students. So I don't have to retype everything all the time. So I always worked for templates because I'm marking hundreds of papers all the time, and I need to produce feedback that conforms to a standard that we've already publicized to the students, right? Everybody has to do this. Everybody understands this. Now, instead of going through the process that I always go through to take this year's assessment question, this year's learning outcomes, and then adjust it to my feedback pro forma, I thought to myself, I asked myself, the question I ask myself multiple times a day, what would ChatGPT do with this? So I fed the question, the learning outcomes, information about the module and the aims of the module, any information available on the marking scheme. I fed all this to ChatGPT, and my template from last year with the feedback, and I told ChatGPT, adjust a feedback template on the basis of this information using this example and make it look like the one before. And it did a terrific job. So instead of me having to manually update the question, the learning outcomes, and everything that had changed from last year's question to this year's question, and it would take me the whole day to do that, ChatGPT did this for me in 5 minutes. So it took me 15 minutes to say feed in the information. ChatGPT did it almost immediately. Then I spent another 15 minutes checking that it was correct and adapting. And now I've got myself my templates. And I've even asked ChatGPT to do a pro forma template for a good paper, for an average paper, and a bad paper. So now I've got a pro forma feedback template that I can use to then adjust to every student. Of course, I will personalize it to offer effective feedback for each essay that I'm marking, but I've got the bulk of it already there, ready to use in a way that conforms to what we had set up and the purposes that we needed it for, and it's all ready. And it makes my life so much easier. And I thought this is such a terrific idea that I made a video about it yesterday that I put on my YouTube channel. So if you follow the link to the YouTube channel through the link tree that I shared with you guys earlier, the last posted video is the one where I describe this process of the prompts that I was using for ChatGPT and all the rest of it. And you're going to see there exactly how it works. Now, another thing that I've done in going through this process of thinking, how can I use ChatGPT to make my life better and produce more content? And how can I utilize AI to do something meaningful for the students? We need to prepare our students for a massive multiple choice test. I know this sounds silly, but this is what it is, because the lawyers now have to go through a massive multiple choice test in order to become solicitors. This is what the regulator has decided. Now, creating and sharing with the students endless multiple choice questions is very annoying. Anybody who has gone through this process knows why. After a while, you just lose your mind. How many questions can you create on the same thing, worded in slightly different ways? After a while, you just run out of ideas. But ChatGPT is the thing that's been sitting there dying to help you with this. So what I did, I took all the information about this exam, everything that is publicly available, all the examples that are available for this exam, because the regulator makes a lot of samples available to allow people to prepare. I fed all this to ChatGPT, and then I said, create now multiple choice questions in the style of this exam, and then offer feedback as to whether we have the correct answer or not, and why the correct answer would be the correct answer and all the rest of it. So I created for free, because remember, I'm using the free version. I'm very cheap, right? I don't pay for anything. I'm using the free version of ChatGPT. So using the free version of ChatGPT, I created an endless bank of questions. Now, of course, I go through them to check that they're all correct and the feedback is appropriate. It does well, it does the occasional mistake, but now that I've created so many questions, it's actually bang on, right? It needs very little adjustment. So this has worked so well. I made another video describing the prompts and explaining this process that you can also have a look at if you're interested. But I thought I will just make a big business out of this. So I created a newsletter, and I'm sending to people who are kind of torturing themselves preparing for this exam. I'm sending a weekly newsletter. Every week they've got a fresh question and feedback, and all of this is provided by ChatGPT with a little bit of amendment for me. So I can keep doing this till the cows come home, because I'm never gonna run out of ideas. So these are all concrete ways in which one can use the tools that are available to do things right now. So things that don't require an exceptional level of training. You don't need to sit through a workshop. You don't need to read documentation. You don't need to think about it so much. You just need to play with it a little bit. The vast majority of these things are free to use, or they've got a trial version that will allow you to get some functionality. And if you decided that you want to use this every day, then you can pay for something extra. So all of these things, they're very easy to use. They're quite intuitive in their interface. They help you themselves, and I think can make a difference in your practice and can make your work easier day to day. And you can start right now. You don't need anybody's permission. You don't need to wait. You can go with it right now. So the question is, and I think this is going to be useful for the future, especially as we're all kind of struggling to keep our jobs going, ask yourselves for every single task you have, could ChatGPT help me do this? Could an AI image generator help me do this? What is it that from these tools I could use to make this easier, faster, more effective? Now, and I'm gonna finish soon because I don't want to go on forever. What do the students think about all this? I'm not sure. It definitely has made a difference for me because it has improved my practice and the efficiency and speed of my practice. I definitely think it is making things better because the output of my work is improving because I can now do things quicker and in a more creative way, which gives me the opportunity to do more things. Do the students actually care? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I don't think this is a process where we should expect instant feedback, and we shouldn't base our use of these tools on the immediate reaction of our students and our colleagues and the university and everybody else. I think these things are becoming more normalized. We are accepting their use. Whoever sees the final product is also getting used to the idea, so there might be a little bit of an adjustment. I have found great use of all these things that I produce with the use of AI online through third-party audiences and more broader audiences. I haven't seen a great deal of interest from the students within the university, maybe because the face-to-face interaction is more important to them than the online tools that I make available that have been built with AI. I'm not sure. But I think these things are important. They can make a difference, and sooner or later, we all have to get used to using them. Now, you can also get in touch with me by scanning the QR code on the screen. It's going to take you back to the same link tree as the one that I put on the chat. And yeah, hopefully you guys have an interest in this and you want to use it. And it's gonna, let's talk about the things that have been in the chat.